JoJo is on Broadway. The world is in balance again.
Oh my God! Did you hear? Did you hear? Oh my God, guys! Jayke has a podcast. I can't believe Jayke has a podcast. Oh my God, Jayke has a podcast.
Oh my God, you guys! What's up, everybody? My name is Jayke Workman, and this is Oh My Pod, You Guys, a musical theater and pop culture podcast. Y'all, this week we are diving right into the Broadway World recap because, mama, there is a lot going on in the world of Broadway. Oh my God, did you like that song? I know. You guys, Miss JoJo, Joanna Levesque, pop diva icon extraordinaire, made her Broadway debut this week as Satine in Moulin Rouge on Broadway, and oh my pod, you guys, she looks insane. She looks unbelievably beautiful. I cannot wait to see her in the show. I know she's gonna sing it the house down, but y'all, this video that we got of her first bow, she looks absolutely radiant. She looks so thrilled. I know that she's wanted to do Broadway for so long, and so this is just so exciting for her, and I cannot wait to see it. Next up, it was just announced that Broadway diva Ms. Ariana DeBose will be hosting the Tony Awards for the second time in a row this year. I'm so excited. I thought she did an excellent job last year. She was witty and charming, and obviously she's stunningly beautiful, and her opening number was Gorgina. She worked it out, so I think she's going to be great again. I'm really excited for her. And it's just so great that a queer Afro-Latina woman has been put on this platform and has been given the opportunity to host a show as iconic as the Tonys. So, yay! Good on you, Tonys! Next, we must talk about the announcement of a new private reading of Death Becomes Her. You guys, I think that this movie and this story would be a perfect musical, so the fact that they are in the works with this reading is so iconic. But then we get this stacked cast. Nicole Scherzinger, Megan Hilty, Jennifer Samard, Christopher Sieber, and Kevin Smith Kirkwood have all been slated to be leading this private reading of this new musical. And y'all, if that casting is any indication, we are gonna see this show go somewhere. Are you kidding me? Iconic. I cannot wait to see what they are going to do. I mean, Megan Hilty could slap me across the face and I would say, thank you, please do it again. So, also, casting was just announced for a brand new project entitled A Transparent Musical, which is going to make its world premiere at the Center Theater Group in May, and it's based on the Amazon series of the same name. And you guys, this casting looks wild. Daya Curley, Adina Verson, my friend Liz Larson, and Drag Race legend Peppermint are all going to star in this new show. The show hinges on themes of a transgender woman being a mom, and it explores the intersection of Jewish and queer history, and it celebrates the imperfectly human and startlingly familiar aspects of a universally relatable family. I think it sounds beautiful, and I'm so excited that there is trans representation being created in the world of Broadway and theater, and so I think this is going to be amazing. BroadwayWorld also released exclusive first look photos at two plays that are now opening on Broadway. The first is the Thanksgiving play, which is being produced by Second Stage Theater, and it stars Darcy Carden. And the second is a play called Summer 1976, which stars Laura Linney and Jessica Hecht, and it's playing at the Manhattan Theater Club in New York. And you can see these photos by Joan Marcus and Jeremy Daniel exclusively on the BroadwayWorld Instagram at Official BroadwayWorld. And you guys, both of these plays look beautiful. They look elegant and simple in design, but really creative and lovely. So I hope to check both of them out, see the shows, and I'll report back to you guys. And lastly, it was announced that the cutoff date for eligibility for this year's Tony Awards will be April 27th. So all eligibility will be consistent with the opening night credits prior to April 27th. Meaning that if a show opens after that date, if they were to be considered for Tony eligibility, it would have to fall into the next season's roster of shows. And y'all, this has been the Broadway World Recap. Oh my pod, you guys. I'm so excited to welcome my next guest to the show. She is truly Broadway royalty, the queen herself, Miss Lesli Margherita is here.
Oh my God.
How are you?
I'm so good, and I love seeing your face.
Oh, I miss you. It's so good to see your face. Tell me where you're calling from.
I'm calling from very nice actor housing, actually, in Ventura, California.
Oh.
I normally live in LA, and this is about an hour and a half away, little beach town, and I'm doing a new musicale out here that's getting a tryout, which is awesome because it's kind of away from the prying eyes.
Sure.
Of the Coast. So yeah,
Gorge.
Quiet, soft launching a new musical out here, which is super cool.
Amazing. How long have you been working on that?
Just like a month so far. I got a call from Christopher Gattelli, Tony Award winner, and all around like
casual,
right? Like I'm obsessed with him and would do any project he asked me for. And he called me. He was like, "Hey, are you out in LA in these dates?" And I was like, "Yeah, what's up?" He goes, "I'm doing a new show." I was like, I didn't even read it. I went in, and it's rad. It's like these amazing pop writers who wrote like X's and O's and like all these all these songs are so cool. And
cheers.
So yeah, I'm super excited to do it, and yeah, it's been like already a month, and we have a couple more weeks left, and we're still like working it every day.
Sure.
Still
new
changing
pages,
stuff.
new stuff.
Yeah. New stuff, you
Gorge. Know. Yes. Well, I was gonna say that's how I first came to know you. Was we worked on a new musical in Hartford, Connecticut. It was called The Flamingo Kid. I just got a flamingo tattoo, and now I'm obsessed. I'm like, it's everything. Thank you. But yeah, we met doing a new musical, and so that was like a really eye-opening experience for me, just in terms of like coming to rehearsal with new pages in your like mailbox every day and like plugging things in and throwing things away. But that was obviously not your first new musical. You've done like tons of workshops and new like readings and new works. Can you tell me about that experience? Do you do that a lot in LA, or was that mostly a New York thing?
Both. So I ended up going to London because I had done a workshop in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And everybody's like, oh, LA is not a theater town. There's so much out here. And the theater community is rad out here. Yeah, I had done a workshop of Zorro, the musical, out here. And that's kind of how it got me to London. So it's kind of both. I mean, I started workshopping like Romeo and Michelle out here way back in the day. And Elizabeth Stanley out here, like way back in the day.
Yes.
So there's tons out here, but yeah, I do a lot of workshops, a lot of labs and out of town stuff. And the cool thing is it's so. I love working on new things because you can put your stamp on it.
Yeah.
But then the other side of all of these things go into the ether. They're like TV pilots, kind of like you work so hard and then they go nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, like Flamingo Kid was a fully realized, gorgeous, huge production.
Totally.
And it didn't transfer. And it's so upsetting and disappointing. And, you just never know. I mean, there's some workshops I've done where I'm like, oh Lord, this is dying. And then it goes, you never know. Like it just things that you work on or whatever. It just
totally.
So I kind of now learn to take all of these with a grain of salt and try and teach the youngins, because now I'm the freaking elder in the room. I don't know when that happened, but
please,
I'm like not old, but getting to be seasoned performer. And so I try and tell everybody, like, just don't put all your eggs in that basket, because that basket is rotten and falls apart.
And then sometimes the basket takes you to London and you win a fucking Olivier Award, bitch.
It's so fucking crazy. I know. That was like the craziest thing that has ever happened.
Tell me about it. I mean, I of course did like a deep dive through like the YouTube ether and everything to like find all of the recordings I could possibly find. But what was it like to go from originating a role in a workshop? You played Inez and Zorro, and then to go to London, and then not only to be nominated but to win an Olivier Award for your performance. Like, how do you even?
It like, I still can't process it, and. It was like it was I think like 12 years ago. So right when like iPhones were coming out. So there's not a lot of footage. And I'm happy and bummed because like now the Oliviers, there's like, you know, you can live stream it and blah, blah. But when I was there, the Oliviers weren't like the Tonys in that like people didn't campaign to win. Like you didn't like happen. So I was aware of them, but I was so freaking excited to be there. So I'll make this very short. I had done the workshop out here and had done over 3 more years workshops, and they kept me, and I really built this character. It was me, like literally from the ground up. It started with 1 act, and then it just grew and grew. And all the time they were like, "We're going to open it in London," because the whole team was British. And I was like, yeah, sure. When I get there. Blah. And then it ended up happening. Equity didn't exchange me because I hadn't done a Broadway show yet. Like nobody gave a shit who I was. So the Zorro producers got me work papers and brought me over there. So the whole thing was crazy that I was there anyway.
Yeah.
And then like I remember the nominations for the Oliviers came out, and other awards happened, like What's on Stage and those are super fun. And the Oliviers weren't on my radar because then the category was men and women all in one. So very few people got nominated. And Americans didn't get nominated and or win. Now it's a little more common, but every single person was like, you're not going to win. You know, because when I got nominated, I was like, oh my God, this is unbelievable, unreal. The show was totally, you know, so many nominations, and I just assumed I wasn't going to win because everybody told me I wasn't going to win. And I was like, yeah, it's fine. No, nothing. My husband was like, write a few things down. I was like, it doesn't matter. And then I won. And that speech is, I reference this speech in like my cabaret shows because it is so me and so out there. I was insane. But yeah, the whole thing was amazing. But then talking about like, you know, expectation, immediately after we closed in London, we were supposed to open in Boston. And then it was going to go to New York. And that was finally, I was going to make my Broadway debut. And then it didn't happen. Like money fell through. It didn't happen. And I didn't make my Broadway debut until like a couple years, 3 years later. But only because the Matilda people had seen me in London.
Wow. So just like all the roads kind of connected for you in that regard. Like
the most backward way possible.
Yes. Well,
and I always talk about like your path or whatever. It's like not. And there are some people that have a direct path, and I am so envious of them.
Oh, sure.
But it doesn't really happen that way.
Right.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
But it happened.
Hell yeah, it did. Well, okay, and obviously we have to talk about Matilda, but I do want to ask you about one story that I've heard you tell during Zorro, which is when a certain rodent
Raton
made its way onto the stage in a precarious scene.
Oh my God, I it's the best story of my life, honestly. Like I don't think I'll ever top this. So my character was funny, but it was pretty dramatic, you know, at times. And I had this like horrifying, tragic death, spoiler alert, at the end of the show. And so every night I would get shot, die center stage, of course, or crawl back to center stage if I died over. And London theaters are like New York theaters, like they're fucking old. Can I swear in this?
Of course. Of course.
But they're so old and they're all underground. So, you know, from New York, like rats. London, they're not only more of them, they're bigger. So I'm laying dead on stage, and all the flamenco dancers and all of like the Zorro guy, everybody's surrounding me because it's just like, oh God, Inez, she's shot. And all I hear is like, raton, oh, raton. Some, like one of the guys behind me, all I heard was raton, raton. I was like, the fuck is raton? I'm dead, lying dead on stage. A giant rat ran across the stage, made its West End debut, and then ran across my body.
No.
To which I shot up, sat up, and went, realized, and then died again. And then all you saw was like my shoulders shaking, laughing so hard. The poor Zorro, Matt, his like sword, he was shaking. The audience laughed. Everybody saw what happened. I'll never, ever have an experience like that again. So yeah.
And you went on to win the Olivier Award and then go to Broadway with Matilda.
Which was also insane. And my story for that is nuts that I actually can talk about now because it's been so long. But
sure. I
have been trying to book a Broadway show. I'd been so close. And then when I won the Olivier, I'm like, oh, it's going to happen. Didn't happen. So finally, Matilda, my friends in London were like, this show just opened and there's this role that you have to play. And I heard the original London album and I was like, oh my God. Oh my God, it's me. But was like, it's not going to be me because I, hadn't done a Broadway show, whatever. But I flew myself out. I knew that they were having auditions, but I didn't get an appointment. And my pal, Eden Espinosa, texted me or called me or something. And she was like, I just got an appointment for this role and it's not me, it's you. And I was like, that's how I knew that they were having auditions.
Wow, work.
Right? Like that's like, get good friends in your life who aren't. And that's why she's so rad. And like, to be like, listen, I got this appointment, but you need, it's just the whole thing was just the best. So I had my agents call. I flew out like 4 times, over 6 months and kept going back. And in the meantime, I was doing Grease at the Sacramento Music Circus, which was also dubbed Ancient Grease because we were all way too old to be playing our roles.
Incredible.
Beth Malone was Marty. Like we were just like all like cast, but Ancient Grease. I tore my ACL doing the hand jive. ACL in my knee doing the hand jive. And I knew that I was in the running for Matilda. So I had surgery on my ACL 3 months before I started rehearsal. When I came out of surgery, well, again, only me, is when I got the phone call in post-op, as I'm drugged up, that I got the show.
Oh my God, you're kidding me.
And all I can remember, my friend told me that I told my manager, I was like, oh, I got a new knee, so here we go, Broadway. And I couldn't tell anyone because an ACL reconstruction is massive.
Right.
And it usually takes like a year.
Right.
I had 3 months and I let nothing deter me. It was the best lesson in like, your mind is way more powerful than you think. My husband only let me watch like sports documentaries about athletes that have come back because he's that guy,
Love it.
I learned more about quarterbacks than I ever wanted to know. But I did PT 8 hours a day and I didn't tell anybody. And the only person that knew I had been injured was my dance partner, Philip, because he had to help me. And that is how I ended up cooter slamming 8 times a day because the original choreography for me in Matilda was to do an assisted split where like my partner holds my arms, but it put a lot of pressure on my recovering knee. So I was like, I can do a jump split like a big idiot, not thinking thousands of performances. But that's how that came to be, all because I was injured and didn't want to tell anybody. I'm rambling, but
no, I'm living.
My life is crazy. The path of is nuts.
And even just like that pathway, like what if that had not been part of the choreography? Like, it's probably the most iconic part of that fucking show is you Cuda slamming into the splits.
And I was so nervous because I was such a massive Peter Darling fan or choreographer.
Yeah.
I had a one-on-one with him when I was auditioning. And it was the most exhausting audition I've ever had because he was going to build the Mrs. Wormwood number on whoever got Broadway because he wanted her to dance more than she did in London.
Right.
So I had done all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. So for me to even suggest, like, oh, maybe I can do a jump split, took everything out of me because I'm very much a people pleaser. And I did not want to, like, I was sure I was going to be fired anyway. Like my debut, I sublet for like 6 months. Like I was sure they had made a mistake. And so he was like, oh my God, do you think you can do that 8 times a week? I was like, absolutely, yes. And that's how that is happening. Yeah.
Fierce.
Just from my
Well, that's so cool to hear because I wasn't super familiar with the London version of the show. I mean, I had listened to the recording, but, you know, didn't obviously like deep dive into the videos. And then eventually I got to see you in the show. But I knew you as a dancer. Can you tell me about like what your experience was like either growing up or like through school in terms of dance? Because not only are you belting your face off in that number specifically, but you are dancing, mama. And like Philip is just flinging you around. Like how did you train for that?
That dance number was, that whole number was the hardest thing I think I'll ever do just in terms of stamina. I know for that show, they made us jog around New 42 Studio, like jog while we're singing. So it was like that Legally Blonde when they're like on the treadmill. It literally was that we were doing.
Search for Mrs. Wormwood.
Totally. Yeah. Search for Mrs. Wormwood. Like they just had us doing that. We did a lot of conditioning and a ton of just like building your stamina up because it was so hard. And even closing day, I remember Philip and I there was one section of the song that we called the blackout section because it was like the black was creeping in and like my vision was getting it just never got any easier.
Yeah.
And yeah, you know, that not only and Tim Minchin has said this, Loud is I think the hardest song he's ever written to sing. It's insane.
Yeah.
Because you have to be like shouting, but you can't be shouting. So you're mixing, but then you're it's like it. So that was difficult enough. And then you add on this insane dance number. I danced first when I was little. I just always danced. I loved it. And then randomly, a production of Annie was coming through San Francisco. And I was like, I could do that. And my parents were like, don't sing. I'm like, I can sing Happy Birthday. And I did. And then I got that show. I was like 8. And then it was just kind of a no-brainer. I never, I don't know. I think because I didn't really know too much about showbiz. I grew up on a cattle ranch that I didn't think that acting, singing, and dancing were separate things that you had. It was kind of all one thing to me.
Sure. So
I never, ever once said, oh, I'm a better actor or a better singer or a better dancer. Mm-hmm. It just wasn't in my head. So I think that also goes to like people that I trained with. It was never a thing. I think now it's really hard. Like you get told like, oh, you're a dancer third. Well, just because somebody said so.
Sure, exactly.
Just because somebody said so. So I was really glad that I never had that in my head. I love roles where I get to use all of it.
Yeah.
Where I get to actually sing, dance, dance, and they don't write those very much anymore. Mm-hmm. So when Matilda, because I grew up like Cheetah in Kiss of the Spider Woman was like my goal. That was like it.
Of course.
And I still to this day watch her Tony performance like at least 2-3 times a month.
Yes.
Because they just don't have roles like that much anymore. So
right.
I was more than happy to do that number. But Loud was the hardest. I'll never have anything harder.
Wow.
Ever.
And then you went into another show while you were still doing Matilda, if I'm not mistaken. Just a little known show called Dames at Sea.
And listen, Dames at Sea. Yeah. Was like the most freaking fun job. And it was so good, and nobody saw it. And then we closed. It was like so disappointing because it was so good. We opened the season of Hamilton, and so 6 white people on a boat wasn't necessarily at the top of everybody's list.
Could have been the title, honestly. Yeah.
6 white people on a tiny boat. Chug-a-lug. But it was so good. And I actually got to go back last summer. Randy Skinner, who's like a tap icon. I cried because that show opens with me tapping by myself on a Broadway stage. And every night I'm in a gold sequin tuxedo tap dancing on Broadway. And every night I'd be like, this is what I did as a kid. I dreamed about this.
Yes.
By myself tap dancing on Broadway. It's insane in a gold sequin tuxedo. So every night I was a mess. So Randy last summer was like, he wanted to revisit it and kind of get it ready to be a tighter version that they could tour with. So I got to go back and do it at Bucks County. And I had the best time because the pressure was off.
Yeah.
I didn't have to worry about grosses or, people writing shit online or whatever. So it was really fun to go back and do it because that whole Dames experience was so amazing, but also such a bummer.
I mean, I couldn't believe that it closed when it did, only because I was part of the generation who was so familiar with all of you guys because it was when like true social media and like your video like vlogs and stuff came to be. So it was really like we got a special like behind the scenes look at those shows, Matilda and Dames at Sea, that like we hadn't really had much of before.
Those vlogs, like, and now people TikTok, but it's just not the same.
No, I mean,
I love people like backstage view. I love. Like, I'll always do talkbacks if people have questions and stuff. Because the TikToks are like a Lifetime movie version. They're like, dramatic versions of what happened on stage. What I loved about like just sticking a camera on was that you did see everything, and it was super fun. I loved doing that, and I kind of miss carrying a camera around, but now everybody's got one, and it's kind of like less special.
Right. Sure. But it was such a fun like way to feel like we were getting to know you and those people. And I truly did. I really was like, wow, Lesli Margherita, I hope to be in a show with her someday. And now I'm like, she's on the podcast, baby.
What is so crazy is like, I'm such a theater kid and still am, and such a fan. And it took me so long to get to Broadway, which is supposed to be the success, but it's not.
Right.
Like, oh wait, my roommate. I'm doing a podcast.
That's staying in. It's staying in.
Kids, when you have roommates in active housing. And my roommate is the amazing Jennifer Lee Warren, who was like one of the original urchins.
Oh my God.
In Little. Like it's crazy, like right, like that's your roommate.
And I'm like, we're like, keep it down, Jennifer.
I know. My other roommate is like one of the longest running Christines and Phantom, Terry Bibb. Like, it just
oh my God, Terry Bibb, iconic.
So this house, you've got the three of us that were like, well, we're doing a new musical. Like, can I borrow some toilet paper? Like, it's just amazing.
Oh my God.
Oh my God, I totally forgot what you were asking me.
Oh, well, we were talking about the vlogs.
Oh God, the vlogs. Yeah, I don't know. I miss those. I miss those people. Oh, I know what it was. We're talking about like, I'm such a fan of people. So the fact that anybody was coming up to me being like, oh my God, I'm a fan of you. Or what you just said, like, oh, someday I'll be in a show with her, is cuckoo nuts to this day. Because I'm still like, oh my God, I can't believe I have a job, A.
Yeah.
And then and there's blah, blah, blah that I'm like freaking out over,
Totally.
So it never goes away. Which I hope it doesn't go away because I love that. I don't want to like I get so mad at people that show up to their jobs and are like,
Yeah, boo hiss.
But like, oh no.
Oh no.
All have those days and those shows where you're like, okay, not my favorite.
Of course.
Not my, and we're doing it. Here we are. Look at us.
Making jokes, having a good time.
Yeah,
well,
because you got it.
I have to say, I think getting to know you through working on a show with you was so exciting, because it really was that experience for me of like, oh my gosh, it's the first day, I have to put on like a good impression and whatever, and then of course like through rehearsals and everything you get to know everybody, and it becomes like the playing field gets sort of leveled in that regard. But you don't just do theater, you are a TV and film actor as well, and so I'm sure that also happens a lot in your experience working on TV and film sets with like these crazy famous people.
Yes. And they're just normal.
Yeah.
The hardest thing I think is the majority of what I do would be like to guest star on a different show. So, and a lot of times there's shows that I like. Yeah. And I'm walking in and I'm like, oh, I've been in the room before. No, I've just seen it on TV. So those people are the nicest. Like, I've never had a bad experience. And they're so interested when they find out that you're like a Broadway person. They're like, "Oh my God, you sing and dance!" Like we're zoo animals.
Right. But, which, I mean, where's the lie?
We are. Let me tell you, at least once a week, I'm on stage looking at the audience, being like, "I'm a fish in an aquarium." They're just, I'm a zoo animal. Like it literally is. It's just. I'm like, I could do anything I want. These people are staring at me. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I just have stayed a fan of all genres, and I lucked out because I kind of did TV and film first because I didn't know what I was doing. I was at UCLA, doing shows at Disneyland, and I got a manager, and he was like, they're remaking Fame. Like Fame in Los Angeles. And I was like 17. I was like, okay, whatever. And I like booked this television show because I didn't care.
Right.
I didn't know what I was doing. And at, 17, you're like, of course, because I'm amazing. I wish I had that confidence now. But yeah, I lucked out and still am lucking out, being able to kind of go back and forth between theater and TV and film. I'm very, very lucky.
Yeah, that's incredible. Well, and you also, I mean, I've talked a little bit about this on the podcast. My last guest was Carrie St. Louis, and she's had quite a run. I mean, she's just a gem of a human. Yeah. And she's currently, she's playing Rose in Titanic off Broadway. Yeah. And I wanted to ask, oh my God, show. Leslie, it's
favorite show.
It's ridiculous. I could see you in that in a fucking second.
I would never, when I saw Marla after the show, she was like, oh my God, you could totally do the show. I'm like, I don't want to because I need to be a fan and watch it. If I was in it, I wouldn't get to watch it. I could never do
Honestly.
But any of it. I think I peed myself. I know, like, I got to see it again now because I saw the original cast, and Alex Ellis, who was a friend of mine in play, was doing Carrie's role, but now I got to go back and see Carrie. Yes. If anyone's listening, please go see Titanic because
it's unreal. But you had your own off-Broadway experience doing Who's Holiday, which was like the most unhinged, I would say like an equivalent to a Titanic experience of playing Cindy Lou Who in this parody show of Who's Holiday. Can you tell me about how did you end up there?
Again, a crazy story. So I was actually filming, being very dramatic, on Homeland, and I was filming in Virginia. And I was there for, a few months or whatever. I was in a hotel room, and I got an email from an agent that was like, you're being offered this show. It was originally going to be in Boston. All my things in Boston, like, don't happen. It was supposed to be in Boston. And I was like, okay. It's a one-woman show, which immediately I was like, oh God, I don't know. And then I read it and peed myself and was like, I need to do this.
Correct.
And other people had been attached to it. I don't know. I'm sure it was like the 15th choice, but I was like, I'm taking it. I love it. And then like a few days later, they said they're skipping Boston, going straight to off Broadway. And I was like, in like a month? And I was still filming. And for a while, I was going back and forth to New York. And I had like, and filming Homeland, all that was a mess. But that's how I got involved. And it was the most frightening yet rewarding experience of my life, because the one-person show scared the crap out of me. There were 3 of us, me, stage manager, and my dresser, and they had to push me out on stage every night because it was terrifying. Once I was out there, it was fine, but terrifying.
Yeah.
Terrifying. Because it literally is just you. Like, if you forget a line, and everything was in Seuss speak, rhyme. So if I fucked up a line, I had to be like, oh God, what rhymes with the, like, it was a whole experience, but I was so proud of it. And I really hope that it comes back at some point. I really, really hope so. You know, you never know. I know they were like, you know, especially those shows, had been talking about, oh, we're going to do it again, but they need a star to do it.
Please.
You know, it's just how it is. But that remains like one of my favorite things I think I've ever done. And I'm so glad I did it. If you ever get a chance to do one person, and it's different than like your cabaret show, because that I'm surrounded by my friends. Right. This was just all by myself. and there was audience participation, and that scares me too. That I had to face all of my demons, like going into the audience.
I think it is like one really big goal of mine is to do a one-person show. And I mean, I've been obsessed with Elaine Stritch at Liberty like forever. She's I mean, it's just like the pinnacle of like comic genius. And so to do something like that, I mean, I got to see one of your dear friends, Mr. Tom Lenk, do Buyer and Seller, which was another incredible one-person show.
Buyer and Seller is another one that's crazy.
It's just a monologue. It's insane.
They're insane, these shows. And you can't zone out. Not that you're doing any show, you know, but you just it's really tough, but it's really rewarding. Yeah. But it is weird. After the show, it's just me in my dressing room, like, good, patting myself on the back. Good job. It's something I think everybody should do. It's frightening, but yeah, I loved Whose Holiday. I just thought the idea of Cindy Lou Who as an absolute fucking mess.
Yeah.
But what I loved about it was that people thought it was just this comedy. It was so heart-wrenching, and like her journey of, you know, this, everybody counted her out and she had drug problems and had been in jail, and then she just picks herself up and got her degree at DeVry. Like, she literally just like pulled herself out of this hole, and it was so inspiring.
Yes.
To this broken person who, yes, it was funny, but it was also like really, it had such a great message. So I was very proud of that one. And Matthew Lombardo, who wrote it, just did, and Carl Andrus, who directed, everybody, like, that team was so great. And yeah, I hope that comes around again someday.
Gorge. That's amazing. Well, you have also done lots of regional theater across the country, which I think is really exciting. Yeah. You've worked at places like Goodspeed and like La Mirada. Can you tell me about like is there a difference for you in like taking on like a production contract like Matilda versus being like, okay, I'm going to be at this job for 3 months and that's it? Like, how do you approach those?
No, and I think it's because it took me so long to get to the Broadway. Regional theater is no different. Like, I love regional theater, and you get to play roles and do shows that you've wanted to do forever. I just did a Damn Yankees out here in Long Beach that I swear was better than stuff I've seen on Broadway. Like, it doesn't matter where you do shows. Broadway is a street.
Period. Say it again.
Period. It is a street. Like, it just doesn't matter. So no, I don't look at, I mean, the theater that I'm in right now across the street is literally where they're like 10 people in a dressing room and where, you know, it's not glamorous. Neither is Broadway to be, you know, to be
exactly.
But no, there's no difference. And I love regional theater. You know, and like, I love playing Adelaide. I'm going to do it again this summer somewhere. Like,
Yay!
just like, I just love, you know, the people are great. And the thing about regional theater is people want to be there because you're not doing money. You know, you really, and I find especially out here in LA, like Musical Theater West and La Mirada, like the people in LA really want to live here and are amazing performers, and they're so grateful to get a chance to do a big show. And that I find that in every regional theater. I think like Hartford, where we did Flamingo Kid, was awesome, and to get to do a tryout of a show at a theater is great. No, I love it. There's no difference. There's absolutely no difference. It's just bigger budget. Sometimes.
And sometimes it is not.
It is not.
So we touched on it a little bit, but going back to, you know, the sort of like feeling of like stepping into a room where you obviously know a person's like credits and like a track record or whatever, like have there been jobs for you where you have like walked into the room and like there's the person that you have like looked up to forever?
Oh, I'm an idiot. I'm an absolute idiot. And when I got to New York and then you see these people all the time, it's still weird to me. I forever have been obsessed with Donna Murphy.
Of course.
Of course. And she knew it. It was like kind of a running joke because I literally would say it in everything. And that woman came to my cabaret show.
I would shit my pants. I
shit myself. And like now we're friends. But that is the kind of person that I hope to be. That if somebody looks up to me, I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to come and support you because I know how that is. So everybody that I've met has been so incredibly amazing. Like I'm always expecting. I'm like, oh God, don't meet your heroes because they'll disappoint you. But everybody in the Broadway world has been awesome. And just stuff like that. Like, oh my God. So like I was also, I've been obsessed with Andrea Martin, and Pippin was running when Matilda opened. My friend Andrew, who was in Pippin, got Andrea Martin to film me an opening night video that was like minutes long. She didn't have to do that. Nobody you know, like it's just stuff like that makes me freak out. I sat next to Bernadette at the Broadway flea market and flipped the fuck out because literally I sat down and she went, "Hi, Leslie," and I was like, "She knows my name. She knows my name." Well, my name was on a card like right in front of me. I freaked out. I freaked out all the time, and I'm such an idiot because I will be like, "Oh my God, I love you so much."
Of course.
And then I obsess about what I've said to them afterward for like hours. I'm like, did I make
Of course. I mean, the first time that I like saw Charlotte D'Amboise backstage of Chicago, I was like, I have seen an angel. I was like, I can't recover from this.
And then you're on the same stage. It's weird.
It's so weird.
All reality.
Well, and I love too. Some of my favorite like celeb quote unquote run-ins are with people who like I have never met and I will probably never meet again. Like one time I met Matt Bomer on the street. He was in New York doing a play. Hi, Daddy. Gorgeous. And he had clearly just like walked out of his stage door like after a rehearsal or something. There was no one on the street and it was just me and him. And I looked up and we like locked eyes and I went, "Matt?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I was like, "Oh wait, I completely forgot that we're not friends. You don't know who I am."
Happens all the time. Especially like they call it like the Broadway quads, like around like the Schubert and like where the Marriott Marquis is. There's a bunch of theaters.
Yes.
So there was one time I saw that actor Liev Schreiber was doing a show like around the corner from me. Came around and I was like, "What up, doodle-doo?" Thinking it was like a friend of mine. literally, what up, doodle-a-doo is what I said. He was so confused. I was like, I don't know you. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't know you. It's so weird because you do. I remember every time I saw Bradley Cooper, I'd be like, oh my God, oh my God.
Oh my God. Oh. Insane. That's insane. And then, of course, like the next week. Yes, exactly. Like the next week, you're like in the same show and you're like, oh, okay, never mind.
Never mind.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Like, everybody. When we were doing Flamenco Kid, he was so lovely. Beth Level's boyfriend. I don't want to like out who's with who, but
yeah.
Just that Beth was like at our performance, and she's another like I'm friendly with, and I've worked with her, but she's another one where I'm like, hey Beth,
hello.
Hey, and
of course, when I met Beth Malone the first time, I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Ancient Greece.
All roads lead back to ancient Greece.
All roads. I love Beth Malone and I like. She was another LA girl. Like we had just done shows at the La Mirada and whatever, and then it happened that we both were out there at the same time. We were like, and Beth Malone. And if you know Beth Malone, this is the least Beth Malone thing. Matilda thought I was too short, and so before my final callback, Beth Malone went with me to like the JCPenney in Sacramento while we were doing Ancient Greece to buy Kardashian heels. And I made her put them on, and I cry laugh that Beth was shopping for stripper heels with me. She's like, I'll do this again in my life. I'll never.
Oh my God, iconic.
But yeah, but then then she becomes Beth Malone, and you're like, but it's crazy.
Of course, and you become Lesli Margherita, and then it's just, which is hilarious. I always, I will never forget your like iconic quote, which is, it's like the pizza, not the drink.
Yeah.
I love it. And I think I have to title the episode like the pizza, not the drink. Yeah. So can you tell me, are there like aspirations of new stuff for you? Do you like, not to be the fucking worst question ever, which is like, well, what's next? But like, what do you hope?
Panic attack in 15 minutes. Yeah. That's next.
Walking Stewart.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think what people don't realize is that we may look like we have it all together. We just want to work. It's a constant. You're never at a point where you're like, oh, great, I can coast now. And it's just not like that. We unfortunately chose a business that is, you're at the highest high and the lowest low in the same day.
Always,
you know?
Right.
So as long as I can keep working and doing cool stuff, I've been really, really lucky knocking on everything, you know, to get to do this for a living. But, you know, it's just, there are always like dream roles and stuff. But the more and more I just want to keep working. And I think also like pandemic, you kind of realized, oh, what we do is really special and could go away at any point.
Totally.
So that like changed perspective, I think, for a lot of people. I just want to like keep working, and I don't care where it is. Broadway doesn't mean better.
Again, say it from the rooftops.
Yeah. It just doesn't, it doesn't. And no matter where you are, it literally doesn't matter. So I don't care where I'm doing the stuff that I love to do. Mm-hmm. And you know, it really, I really try and make that point that, you know, people are like, oh, I haven't been on Broadway. And I was that forever, and going, it might not happen. And that's okay too.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you're less successful.
100%.
So, and that's hard, you know, it's hard because we now live in a world of, you know, people telling you have to be such and such to I don't know. You know what I mean?
Have the little blue check mark to be worth it.
Yes. Totally. Or you're not, or your worth is nothing.
Right.
So, it's an interesting time. I think social media has gone cuckoo. Like there's like TikTok theater talk, you know, that's like, which is a whole another level of insanity.
Right.
And like,
because it's like simultaneously musical theater, but also on your phone. So there's no like actual like element of live theater at all, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so silly.
It's the whole thing is nuts. I just kind of now just sit back and work when I because you used to argue back, you can't argue with anybody, and I used to like get online and get so mad at people saying stuff, and I was like, I just can't. You just gotta keep on keeping on.
Totally. Well, and that, like, to that point, I do have to ask you about just like your social media presence and the way that you have sort of created this like rule your own kingdom brand, because I think it's not just like funny comic relief for people. Like, people, I mean, you obviously know that people look up to you. So the fact that, like you're keeping it real on a level that some people are not. And I love that. I think it's like so refreshing, and it's so cool that people get to see you be like, yes, I have an Olivier Award, and now I'm picking up my dog's poop on the side of the road.
Or like, I love the fact that somebody appreciates if I post, I just really tanked an audition, because I feel like it happened.
Of course.
There's so much of the, I can't say what's happening yet, but watch this space.
Stay tuned.
I'm like, your cat in the bag. Just.
No one wants to see your cat.
Nobody wants to see your cat. Nobody. The fact that you kept your cat in a bag means that you should go to jail. Like that. It's a lot, and I understand it, because we all do it. Everybody wants to make themselves feel better, but when you are like barraged with, because I know I spiral. If I go on Broadway sites, I have to limit myself to the amount of Broadway news or entertainment news, because it looks like everybody's working but you.
Sure.
And it's just not real.
Right.
So I have to so I'm so happy that I still can keep it real on social media. And that the Queen thing is so, it ended up being like a brand that never was intended to be. That started when I was a kid. I wrote, as a kid of the 80s, I wrote Lesli Rules everywhere. Everywhere. And my mom has all these pictures, like every theater I went into, I wrote it under the table, Lesli Rules, Rules, Rules. And I would always call myself Queen, and it was just, it has never been like, I think I'm better. It is literally like, all I can control is my tiny little kingdom of me.
Yes.
And so I am the queen of my little kingdom, and nobody can come into it. My moat is up. Like, literally, I tell people, I'm like, give yourself a freaking title, because somebody's going to label you anyway. So call yourself whatever you want to call yourself.
Period.
I don't care. And so that's where the Queen thing came from. And and remembering that you're the only person that can rule over you. Things that people say about you, opinions that people have about you, you can't control it.
Right.
And somebody somewhere is going to hate you anyway. So, you already can't please everybody, because there is guaranteed to be somebody who hates you.
Absolutely.
And that just pressure off. And it helps with auditions too, because I have terrible audition anxiety. I hate it. I will like avoid them until I absolutely have to go in. I have panic attacks. But realizing that somebody behind the table is going to think you suck, it's just a numbers game. If there's 10 people, one of them is going to be like, I don't get it. It takes the pressure off.
Sure. Totally.
I'm amazed that any of us get any jobs. The amount of people that have to agree on who should be cast and anything is nuts.
Seriously.
So yeah, I'm happy to keep it real on the social media. I'll always address the theater kids from Auntie Leslie, being like, here's what I've been through.
Yes.
Here's how it is. Because it's important. I think it's totally important. People aren't telling the youngins these days to be good people and to be grateful, and because it's really easy to get 1 million followers on TikTok and think that means you deserve
anything.
A career,
yeah,
anything.
Yeah.
And I don't think there are a lot of people saying like, no, you still got to work your ass off, because that may not translate to
Right.
a career, So I think it's important, and no, I'm glad. Some of them I get in trouble for, but
Oh, screw them.
some people just take them the wrong way, and I'm like, that's not what I meant.
Right. Well, I can honestly say that you truly have been such an inspiration to me and to so many people I know. So I'm just so thrilled to have you on the pod.
I'm so excited that you're doing this, because talk about like somebody, you're so different than anybody else, and you have embraced that and like soared with it.
Oh my God, thank you.
Hey, come on.
Thanks.
You're incredible. And just like, I remember meeting you being like, you had like, I think you had a Louis bag, like a vintage when I met.
Yes, I did.
I love him. And and I was like, where do you get it? You were telling me about like the stores that you went to in Hartford. And I was like, I just thought you were so special. And then you opened your mouth and I had that voice. I was like, what the fuck?
Oh my God, you are too sweet. Making me blush.
It's so like, embrace what makes you you.
I mean, that's the tea.
That's the tea.
Yeah.
You never once anybody else's box, because it's impossible. Yeah.
Totally.
Because you just have to. And that in itself is a hard thing to do. It's getting a little easier now, but I just embrace the weird. It's literally what's going to set you apart.
Hell yeah. Well, I have a little segment that I do, which is a musical theater rapid fire questionnaire / like life questionnaire.
Okay.
If you would, if you would oblige me.
Of course.
It's not a like a trivia questionnaire. Don't fret. It's not about theater knowledge, although I'm sure you would school all of us.
Yeah, very good at trivia. Yeah.
Okay. So, here we go. Sondheim or Andrew Lloyd Webber?
Sondheim. Oh, God, no. Yeah, no, Sondheim.
I knew you would struggle with that one. Sweatpants or jeans?
Sweatpants.
Do you have a favorite musical?
To watch, I freaking love Dreamgirls.
Oh, yes.
There are too many. There are literally too many. I mean, I'm the girl that still buys the T-shirt to every show that I go to.
Of course.
So I kind of like everything.
Get the magnet.
But like, it's like in high school, my keychain was a gold Phantom of the Opera ticket. Like,
incredible. Well, then, on the opposite side, do you have a least favorite musical?
Yes, Hair. I don't like hippies or like that genre. And because I didn't live through it, and I can't. And just balls in my face when I saw it. So yeah, that one absolutely. I remember seeing the revival and just like I'm out. I'm out. You lost me.
You mean to tell me that you didn't want to see Gavin Crowell's balls?
I think it was Gavin's balls. I'm sure. No, I don't. I just no. There's something about this everything. I can't.
Incredible. Would you ever like to do a Broadway play?
Yes, I love doing plays. Yeah, I would love to. Yeah,
Gorge.
Would love to. I keep getting like cool ones out here in LA, and I would love to do one in New York. Yeah. Mm.
Hell yeah. Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Night owl.
Same.
Night owl. Although I'm trying to be more of a morning person.
Oh, but it's so hard.
It's, and what we do, like, you have to be a morning person when you're in rehearsal, but then you're a night owl when you're doing shows.
Yes.
And sometimes you're doing, if you're lucky, sometimes you're doing a show at night and then maybe working on something new during the day. So then you're in a constant state of just like, where am I?
I'm a zombie. Yes.
But yeah, I'm more of a night owl for sure.
Me too. What is the craziest thing a director has ever asked you to do? Or one of them.
One of them, seriously. I mean, I have done Emoji Land. I came down a 15-foot pole. The craziest, I will always laugh about it. My friend, amazing director David Alpert, I was doing a show at the New York Festival Nymph that doesn't exist anymore. And for the second act, my head was chopped off. So he had me for an entire act in a box. And I would my head would pop out when I would do my scenes. And then I was on my back like a dead roach in a box, like literally, so that was definitely one of the weirdest.
That's insane.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You can't say no.
Oh, no, of course.
I mean, again, people pleaser. I'm like,
yeah.
Really do it.
It makes total sense. Golden Age or contemporary?
Golden Age.
Favorite role you've ever played?
Oh, so many. Oh, probably Inez in Zorro, but I love Adelaide so much. There's a bunch, but I think Adelaide's my favorite.
Love. She's just so good.
Yeah. So good, and like, especially getting to do it now in this kind of day and age where you're like, oh no, she's like the smartest one in the room. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Audrey too. I feel like the dumb blondes are so not.
Mm-hmm. The
which is
sneaking.
how they kind of.
Yes,
yeah.
Totally. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Correct. That is the correct answer.
Cool.
Hardest show you've ever done?
Ooh. Probably again, like Zorro was a ton of stuff, but Whose Holiday was the hardest, I think, just emotionally. And yeah, I think that was the hardest.
And how long did that run?
It was only like 3 months.
Well, that's not a short amount of time.
No, but I mean, it was a short. God, it wasn't even. It was probably 2 months, 3 months. But just, I think, like in terms of like the rehearsal process and the self doubt and the, oh God, I suck. Who's going to want to look at me for 2 hours on stage? Like those spirals at night. Mm-hmm. That's what made it the hardest. It wasn't necessarily the hardest to perform, although it is exhausting because you don't get a break. But yeah, I think that was the hardest, like overall, just to deal.
Wow.
Because at least Matilda, Loud is the hardest number I'll ever do, but I had breaks. Yeah. Like that was the only, so that was good.
Yes. Do you have a favorite costume you've ever worn?
Oh my gosh. Dames at Sea, I have this pink Miss Piggy robe that I take off in the middle of the number. It's my favorite though. It's giant, huge feathers everywhere. It's every like dream that you have of this like boudoir robe. That's been my favorite, I think. Fabulous. For sure.
I know the one.
That robe. Oh, yeah.
Have you ever missed an entrance?
Yes. And I documented it. I pride myself on being like, okay, I'm here. I'm not missing anything. But when I was vlogging in Matilda, I had been away shooting a movie for like 8 weeks or something. And it was my first show back. And I was like, I got it. I know what it is. I've done it so many times. I'm literally vlogging, talking. And I have the top part of my costume with just a leotard and my tights. And I hear like somebody just banging on my dressing room door. I'm like, what? I am filming. What is happening? I completely missed an entrance. The music like is going. My Mr. Wormwood was like, on stage. I ran upstairs with no skirt, nothing, no shoes, just tights and my leotard, no pants on a Broadway stage. And everybody had crowded around in the wings laughing at me because I was trying to hide the fact that I had no pants on and no shoes, and I was so late. And since then I have never missed an entrance. I remember the stage manager was laughing. He was like, I'm really sorry to do this. It's like, I have to write you up. Because, you know, you get like 3 strikes and you're out, and sort of on Broadway.
Yeah.
You get like, it's like detention, but you don't do anything. You don't go anywhere. But if you miss an entrance or blah, 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 you get a little write-up. And he was laughing when he said it. I was like, I understand. It's never going to happen again. I'm very sorry. Broadway. That's
incredible.
Happens to everybody.
Especially
now, like shit backstage. My phone, my games, like everything.
Of course.
Ugh.
My last question for you is, what is one thing you would tell to your younger self?
I mean, I think it would really be, it's not going to happen how you think it is. I was so sure growing up that immediately I was going to just, like we all do, you know, I'm going to be this Broadway star. I'm going to blah, blah, blah. And it in no way happened that way. And I think if I had said that to my teen self, I would have been like, go fuck yourself. Yeah, of course it is. You know. So I don't think I would have listened. The small me would not have listened, which is probably a good thing. Mm-hmm. But I would have been like, be patient and know that it's just not going to be what you think it is.
Love it.
Sometimes it's better, sometimes it's worse, but it's just, you got to go with it.
Yeah.
Nothing you can do but go with it.
Well, Lesli, thank you so much for coming on the pod. This was so fun.
I feel like I've just rambled.
Oh my God, no, I loved every second of it. Can you tell the listeners where they can find you on socials?
Yes. Everything, everywhere is at Queen Lesli, and Lesli is Lesli. There's no E at the end of my name. I don't know, my mom, why she did that, but Queen Lesli everywhere. Instagrammy and TikTok. I don't TikTok often. Yours are so good. I should more. No. I like watching.
Yes,
more.
Yes, absolutely. That's the tea. It's like it takes.
Except when I scroll to one and they're like, Lesli Margherita sucks. What about that
before? No.
Yes. Yes. I will, like, on my For You page, be like, I saw Lesli Margherita say this on Twitter. I can't believe she said it.
You're like, enough. I'm going to bed.
I said it to my. Did I make it? Oh my God. I didn't get it. It's raw. It's just all raw. All of it's raw.
Hilarious. Well, thank you so much for doing this. You are just such a treat. I can't wait to get to see you in person again. Come to New York.
I know. Soon. I'm there all the time. Once we're done with this, I'm back for some stuff. So.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yay. You guys, that's it for another episode of Oh My Pod, you guys. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe anywhere you listen to the pod. And you can follow the show on Instagram at Oh My Pod, you guys. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye!
Oh my pod, you guys.